Yeah.
Hi, I'm Greg. I'm the lead singer for Lipstick Generation.
And I'm Steve, the eerily silent bassist for Lipstick Generation.
And welcome.
By that I mean you will be hearing very little from me because I am the one true Kiss fan on this panel this week.
And welcome to the Lipstick panel. Today on the Lipstick panel, we are ranking Kiss leftovers. And you're wondering to yourself, what album is that? Well, it's not an album. These are the bottom of the barrel, bonus tracks, B-sides, demos, Scooby-Doo songs, J-pop collaborations, stuff from the box set. This is just the stuff we didn't get to on other episodes. So, that is what we are ranking today. And we've got some really excellent guests here on this panel to rank, once again, bottom of the barrel Kiss material. Hey, we've got Craig Cohen on the show. Welcome to the show, Craig. Welcome back.
Thanks, Greg. It's always great to be invited on, and I love chatting with you guys.
Yeah, so Craig from SlyCast joining us to talk about something that has nothing to do with Sylvester Stallone. Speaking of people who love Sylvester Stallone, Lee McCormack from Tramps Like Us returned to the show to talk about Kiss. I think for the first time on this show.
Absolutely, yeah. Good to be back and talking about some oddball Kiss instead of some Stallone-themed stuff,
And hey, we've got a first timer on the show. We've got Matt Porter from the Kiss Room, a guy I've been wanting to get on the show for a long time because of his just boundless positivity and optimism against us jaded, cynical assholes. So welcome to the show, Matt.
Guys, I am thrilled to be here. Absolutely happy to be part of the bottom of the barrel.
I mean, yeah, this is the bottom of the barrel in terms of Kiss material. For folks at home who don't know what we're ranking, so we're ranking Samurai Sun and Yume no Yukio ni Saitai Mina. So we're doing the Momomo Clover Z collab. We're doing Rip and Destroy. We're doing Venus and Mars Rock Show. We're doing stuff from the box set like Stop, Look to Listen, Lita. We're doing the live version of Life in the Woods because we feel like it. We're doing Don't You Hesitate, Strutter 78, Do You Remember Rock and Roll Radio, Reputation, probably one I'm forgetting. But we're ranking those songs, discussing them because there wasn't really another place to do it. And this is really so Steve can really claim being a Kiss completionist, hearing all the material. So typically we go around the panel, talk about our history with the band and the material. So Steve, how do you feel about Kiss, and how did this B-sides collection compare to Smashing Pumpkins B-sides?
Well, that is an interesting question. So this B-sides collection, I started this project not really having an opinion about Kiss, and then about midway through I was like, Kiss maybe has some better songs than I necessarily gave them credit for. And now coming through on the other side, I'm like, I'm so done with Kiss. And a bunch of B-sides didn't really disabuse me of that notion, although there were like a couple of songs that, were real standout tracks on here, and then a couple that were real standout garbage. And that was my general take on this collection of songs. Sorry, I mentioned that, I'm the one true Kiss fan on this panel, which means you won't be hearing much of me. I should probably explain what that means. So, random person comes up, puts a gun to your head, and says, here's a brand new Kiss song, but you have to tell me what it's going to be about before I play it for you. Otherwise, you don't get to hear it. What's the song going to be about?
Paul Stanley's penis, and how this girl's going to get some of Paul Stanley's penis?
Right. So I'm generally occupied this afternoon with cleaning my house so that, the woman I love feels comfortable living in it and touching my penis here.
I think that's the first time you've admitted to that on mic.
I mean, I wouldn't be dating her if I wouldn't be engaged to her if this wasn't, a topic that was on the table,
That's fair. So
Sunday goals.
I mean, unless we were both ace, but we're not.
So Steve, coming to the end of the Kiss catalog with a K.
Which word?
But yeah, so Craig, what is your history with Kiss, since this is your first time on a Kiss episode, and general thoughts on this collection of B-sides?
Oh wow. Okay. Yeah. So in terms of my history with Kiss, I was pretty much born into the fandom. I was actually at a Kiss show in utero. My mom and dad went to the Academy of Music New Year's Eve show, the infamous show where Gene caught his hair on fire doing the fire gimmick prior to the first album coming out. And then my brother, who's a couple years older than me, saw the album on the shelves in the store, and how can you not respond to that album as a kid? I mean, you've got these four, strange, cool-looking faces on the front of an album. So Kiss is really one of those things I was just born into. And then, of course, once you get past the makeup and the explosions and the circus of it all, you start to appreciate the music. In terms of this collection of songs, I probably wouldn't go with many of these if I was putting together, my ultimate Kiss playlist, but there are some, quality nuggets in here.
And Lee, how about you? What is your personal history and thoughts on this material?
Well, Kiss was my first favorite band when I was 5 years old. The first record I ever owned was the first Kiss record. I remember looking through my uncle's record collection and just seeing that cover and then putting the record on, and the music blew me away. And I went and I asked him if I could take it home, and I did. And they were my favorite band until I, discovered the Stray Cats later on. But, I've always had a soft spot for Kiss. I always like to say, like, Kiss, wrestling, and Star Wars, my fandom ended in the 20th century, though, right? Like, so I'm not a fan of Kiss, since 2000, as well as professional wrestling and Star Wars for that matter, but, a big fan of Kiss all through the 70s, 80s, and the 90s reunion period, right? So as far as these songs go, though, unfortunately, I'm coming in on this Kiss episode, The Leftovers, where we got some stuff to pick through here. But I got to say, I probably have some good things to say about half of these songs,
And Matt, what is your history, and do you have good things to say about half these songs or more than half of these songs?
So, you know what? I was one of those lucky kids that in 1976 was 8 years old, and Kiss kind of was the steamroller that everybody got caught up by. I've always loved it. They've always been my favorite band. I've enjoyed really this entire time. They've put out all kind of different things, and I've been with it every step of the way. As far as this group of songs, it definitely feels like a great bag of potato chips where there's like one or two good ones and the rest might be a little cracked and crumbly, and you're kind of digging around the bottom of the bag. But it's I'd say at least half the songs are something fun, and at least half we can at least talk about.
Well, fair enough. So speaking of talking about them, let's get right into this ranking. So, for first-time listeners of the show and first-time panelists, the way that it works is that each panelist ranks these songs from best to least best. So, 12 songs in this collection. The best song in your ranking would get 12 points. Your least best song would get 1 point. And then we add up the points of the panel to see where everything adds up. So it's not an average. It's just, total point value collected. And so coming in with the least amount of points collected across our panelists, we've got Lita coming in at the bottom of the list, scoring only 21 points.
Wow. Okay. Well, that's a match for me.
Yeah, so Craig, you ranked this at the bottom. Why is this trash?
I wouldn't call it trash. I mean, it's just, I know it was included on the Kiss box set, but it's basically Gene and an acoustic guitar. And if you're, in the mood for that kind of stuff, it's a fine song. If you put it on and told somebody there was a Kiss connection, I think most people wouldn't hear it.
I respect that take. I mean, I, as someone who's really into the Beatles-y side of Gene, could hear it. And I like a lot of the stuff on his solo albums that, has that more Beatles-y vibe, and stuff from The Elder that has that Beatles-y vibe. It's just, I think this is a less good song in that style. So I'm just like, I like the vibe and atmosphere, but I think the song itself is just okay. Steve, you gave it the exact same number of points that I did. What's your take on this?
I didn't think the song didn't blow me away. I liked it better. So, it looks like there was two equivalent songs in that box set. where they grabbed like one teenage demo from both Gene and from Paul. And between the two, I think the Gene demo was a lot more competently executed for what it is. So I gave this more points than the Paul demo, just because Gene with an acoustic guitar at the age of 17 or whatever was like a better realized vision of a song than Paul Stanley with an entire band who couldn't play their instruments except for a bassist, apparently, at the age of 14.
Yeah, we'll get to that later because I have some comments on that, and I'm just resisting for now.
So this particular song is basically just relative to that one.
That's fair. Lee, you gave this 7 points, so higher up in your ranking, basically right about in the middle. What are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, this one made the 6 songs that I kind of dig out of this batch, coming in at, number 6, my top 6. I thought this one was pretty cool. 1969, Gene, the demo, right, with his band Bullfrog Beer, right? They were a band that would play these beer joints, and they were just playing cover songs for people to dance and drink, right? But in between sets, I guess Gene would pull out some of his acoustic kind of introspective stuff, right? And this is one of the ones that he was working up around that period. And I dig the chord progression on this. It's a weird kind of thing, right?
We're gonna get content ID'd on this episode,
right? So it's kind of like the chord progression A, and then the D flat minor to an F sharp. And it's more than just Gene on his acoustic guitar, right? Like, this is his band. There's a nice little piano solo over an entire verse progression, which is cool, right? And, I have a crush on Lita Ford big time, so I can really get down with the lyrics.
Shoot, I like this song more now. But yeah, you brought up a great point. The piano solo is great. I mean, it's a good chord progression. It's just maybe I might have been extra harsh on it because, there are other Gene songs in the style I like so much more, and also trying to give a fair shake to some of the other songs on the album where I'm like, this isn't that bad. So that may be why I ranked it lower. But you know what? You're right. It is a good song. Matt, what are your thoughts on this one?
Well, first of all, I think Lee needs to record a cover of this because that was fantastic and such a treat. And really, I think it's in the context of it. Like, if you said to somebody, this is Kiss, okay, no, I don't think this is a representation of Kiss. But in the same way that a lot of the stuff off Gene's 78 solo album turned people off because they didn't expect what it would sound like, or it quote unquote didn't sound like Kiss, this would be right at home in his 78 solo album or even on the A-Hole album, because it was so different and it shows Gene's Beatle-influenced roots. And really, I just like Gene's voice so much. It's just, to me, it's certainly not a throwaway, not necessarily that it fits into the, like what you expect from Kiss, but certainly would fit on any of Gene's solo material.
I think the only way this song could be better if it was sung by Billy Corgan and on Melancholy and the Infinite Sadness. Only way the song could be improved. Well, I think we've touched on Lita enough. You guys ready to move on to the next one?
I'd like to touch Lita a little bit more, but...
Okay. So, hey, speaking of Teenage Kiss, next up is Stop, Look to Listen.
Look, it's Paul Stanley being worse at that than Gene Simmons was.
Yeah, and I single-handedly raised this one up. Steve, you ranked this at the bottom, so why don't you go first?
I mean, it's like, if you took Kiss and made them incompetent, that is basically what this song is. It's teenage Paul Stanley minus a bassist and a drummer who can't keep time and an extra guitarist who can't play the guitar. It's just a bunch of 14-year-olds who decided to record their incompetence in the studio for whatever reason.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was his first time, or one of his first times recording anything at like a little recording studio that was by his house. I think it was like in a shop back room or something, and they didn't have a bassist, so they just assumed, let's just play louder. That'll compensate for the fact of not having a bass.
That checks out.
And so when you're 14 years old, like, most 14-year-olds really suck. And so you have to remember this, like, compare this to your 14-year-old recordings, which also suck.
My 14-year-old recordings did suck, but at least they were competently executed for what they were. Like,
well, but also you probably could, multi-track them and, like, go back and fix the mistakes. You basically had to, like, in this situation, get the best take you could live. So,
that's true.
Giving them that.
Although, in my situation, I didn't know how to, like, punch in or edit or anything like that, so I was just doing straight takes.
Okay, so 14-year-old you, better than 14-year-old Paul Stanley. I'll give you that. But I do think that 14-year-old you was not as good of a songwriter as 14-year-old Paul Stanley. And I love your songwriting. But look, I just think this is a cool song. This is like a CCR, Bob Seger-esque, like, bluesy rock song, and Paul Stanley is really trying hard to sound burly and masculine when he's a 14-year-old boy whose balls hasn't dropped yet. But he's trying so hard to sound burly and macho, and the song itself, like, works. I think it's a well-written, cool, old-school rock song that just, is performed by a bunch of kids who are still figuring out their instruments, but I like the songwriting a lot, so that's why I gave a lot of points, which, surprise, surprise, execution isn't great, but Greg likes the song, and then he ranked it high. That never happens on the show. Except all the time. That's the joke, listeners. So,
there's one of these times that I'm going to be like, what, Greg? Why were you saying such things? But we'll see how that, we'll get to that.
But yeah, so Craig, you gave this 4 points. So what did you think of this one?
I think you really, keyed in on how this song works, Greg. I mean, it's a teenage Paul Stanley, and considering how sort of protective Paul Stanley was of his sort of image at this time, I mean, it's pretty funny now in 2020 to see the Paul Stanley that we have now compared to, the Paul Stanley when the box set came out. I mean, Paul was a very, very private person, and, the fact that he wrote an autobiography, blew a lot of people's minds. So, in the going back to when this box set came out, seeing Paul share something that he did as a teenager was really, really cool. And I think, you can forgive a lot of the problems with it because it's, an early look at an artist that became a really, really great singer and songwriter.
Yeah, and then Lee, you gave this 5 points. What are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, this one in Lita, I look in the box set as kind of like, Gene and Paul showing demos before they got kind of serious, right? And I always put Gene's a little bit above, Paul's song, just because I think it's a better song. But then when you look at it, this is Paul at 14 instead of, compared to Gene at 20 doing these songs, right? Like, this is pretty good for a 14-year-old kid that just got his buddies in a studio for the first time, right? And they're just trying to record something. And, like, his voice is horrendous on this, right? It's hard to get through listening to it, but it's amazing to hear, like, the novelty sake of it, right? Like, what this guy would become as a singer and a songwriter, right? And I did notice that, like, as far as a 14-year-old kid writing a song, like, this isn't like a blues or a 3-chord 1-4-5 progression kind of easy rock song from stuff in the 66. Like, it's a little bit of an advanced arrangement and chords and kind of thing, right? So, yeah, not a very good song, but for the novelty's sake, it's kind of cool, Nice try for a 14-year-old.
And Matt, you gave it the same number of points, but do you think it's a good song or a not very good song?
It's one of those songs where I think what everybody has said for a 14-year-old Paul Stanley, it's what they were doing. And obviously to compare it to other things in the Kiss catalog almost seems totally unfair because it's the difference between being Paul Stanley of Kiss and 14-year-old Paul Stanley. It's like if Kiss was a jam band, it's a lot of music without a lot of lyrics. I don't know that it's something, again, that I would put on and listen to over and over and over, but I think in the context of what it is, like others have said, it's fun to see progression of Paul Stanley from a 14-year-old kid to what we knew as Kiss.
Fair enough. So any other comments on Stop, Look to Listen before we move on?
Yeah, what does that even mean? Stop, look to listen? Is he telling the girl to stop and look to listen? What does that mean?
Are you acting like you need meaning from Kiss lyrics? Especially like a teenage version of Kiss lyrics. Like, maybe
she's deaf. He's trying to pick up like a deaf girl, and he's saying, "Look, you have to look at me to listen. Look, read my lips, baby."
What it means is absolutely nothing.
Oh, it's a prelude to Read My Body.
There you go.
In order to understand what I'm saying, you have to look at me, baby. Yeah, so this is Read My Body, episode 1, The Phantom Menace.
The prequel.
Right, the prequel.
Do you say the threequel? The squeakquel?
I understood that reference. Alright, so next up
I
is
don't even understand that reference now that I think of it.
Alvin and the Chipmunks.
Oh, yes, that one.
Great band. One of the greatest bands of all time. Anyway, transitioning, next up on the list is a song that Steve and I single-handedly raised from being at the bottom. We've got...
I don't think you know what single-handedly means, but what the hell was wrong with that?
Quadruple-handedly. We quadruple-handedly saved it from being at the bottom. You and me, buddy. Team Limited Generation. Next up on the list, we have Yume no Yukio ni Saite Mina, the Kiss collaboration with Momomo Clover Z, but this is the version that the girl group sang instead of Kiss. Both Steve and myself ranked this above Samurai Sun, and I know that's definitely going to be a troll amongst a lot of the panelists, and so here is, I will go first, and then I'll let Steve go. I actually listened to a lot of Japanese pop, and am not immediately turned off by the style. And when comparing the two back-to-back, the melody is stronger in this one than in the Kiss version. The translated lyrics are better than the really, honestly terrible lyrics in the Kiss one. The instrumentation is basically exactly the same, except instead of, bad Paul Stanley vocals where he can't sing anymore, you get competent girl group, well-produced. But anyway, my general thoughts on the song is that it's actually not that good of a J-pop song or a J-rock song. It's average at best or slightly below average as someone who actually listens to the genre. So it's fine, and it's better than the Kiss version, which isn't good. But there's, some cool production choices, but the song itself is just kind of meh, and that's why I ranked it where I did. Steve, you ranked this as your number 1, so go ahead. I cede the floor to you.
Right, this version kicks ass. This is a competently executed J-pop, J-rock song. Is it the best J-pop or J-rock song? No. But is it a competent example of the genre? Yes. And that makes it, certainly way better than the knockoff baby metal version that is Samurai Sun, and makes it one of the best songs Kiss did that decade. It's got French horns. It's got it's got just the right amount of Kiss, adding some rocking style guitars to a girl group. It works really well. So yeah, best song on this album, collection, whatever we're calling it.
All right, and Matt,
Shocking.
you ranked it at the bottom, so you will get to counter that since you...
Yeah, I think he must be. I don't know what you're drinking, but boy, send some over here. This is, I think, should be jettisoned from anything related to Kiss. It's embarrassing. It's clearly something they shouldn't even put their name on. I mean, Samurai Sun, I scored a little bit higher for different reasons, but this is a song, if I never heard it again, I'd be fine with it. Obviously they were trying to capitalize on going to Japan and everything. This was not the way to do it. It's just embarrassing to have the Kiss name on it.
Before the next panelist goes, I want to say I respectfully disagree with that, and that I think it's actually really bold and cool for them to do something like that. I just wish the song was better, because I think that, yeah, it's cool that Kiss, who is huge in Japan, would just do a J-pop song. That's cool to do, in my opinion, and not an embarrassment. The embarrassment is just the songwriting isn't that great. Lee, you ranked the second from the bottom. What are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't have much to say about this song or this genre of music. I just don't get it, right? I almost consider putting this above Samurai Sword or Samurai Sun or whatever that song is, because when I listen to the Samurai one, it's like I hear a little bit remnants of Kiss in there, and it just makes me sad, right? But with this song, I don't hear any Kiss at all in this, so I can kind of just be like, whatever. It's just a song I don't even know. But what is Kiss's involvement in this song? Did they write any of it? Did they play any guitars on it? What is it besides being characters in the video?
Paul Stanley, Greg Collins co-write of the music, and I think the lyrics for the Japanese version were done by somebody else, which explains why they weren't trash in the Japanese version. Craig, your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I think everybody pretty much, hit, the pros and cons of it. I mean, this is a pretty much a gimmick song, and, doing this collaboration was an excuse to put out, I guess what you would call an EP. I remember I was really excited when this came out, and I actually commend the band for, taking a chance and trying and doing something different. This is not my go-to version of the song. Or from that collaboration, just mainly because there's nothing for me to connect to there. I never even looked to see what the translated lyrics were. But again, anytime a band's 40 plus years into a career, and they try something this different, you have to give them points for that.
Fair enough. Do we have any other comments on this before we go on? I realize I didn't give Matt a chance to rebut my rebuttal, so I want to be polite and offer that. So my apologies for that.
Well, no, it's fine. I mean, obviously, the great thing, even at the bottom of the barrel, is some people like different things. I mean, obviously, there's a cool video for it, and Kiss's animated characters, but I just, I just don't see any need for this song.
Well, fair enough. So next up on the list, we have a bona fide Kiss classic. We've got Rip and Destroy next on the list.
This song's a mess.
Yeah,
this is a last-minute edition, too, wasn't it?
It was a last-minute edition, yeah. It was someone in another chat was like, hey, are you ranking Rip and Destroy in that episode? Like, oh, shoot. Yeah, we should. And so it was a last-minute edition. Never officially released on an album or B-side, but there's...
Can you even call it a Kiss song? It was done by the Kiss Robots.
But it was, look, it was recorded by Kiss the band, and in Kiss Meets the Phantom of the Park, I've seen a number of bands cover this song live. It's part of the Kiss legacy and worthy of at least discussing. And hey, it didn't rank at the bottom, so it has that going for it. It's fourth from the bottom.
Well, I mean, it's cool because it's all four guys. It's basically just the Hotter Than Hell bed track with some stupid redone lyrics on top of it, right? So it gets a lot of points for that. But the other thing I have a problem with this song is it's not even like a Kiss released product. It's like some YouTube guy put this together on a Sunday afternoon and just looped all parts of things in the movie and just re-edited it. So it's like a mess. Like, so what are we even crediting here, right? Like, it's not even the movie version.
We're crediting the movie version. I just put that on the playlist for those who didn't know it. So basically, Steve.
Yeah, like, so like, and like the vocals, it's like, did Paul write these lyrics? I bet it was like a guy who wrote the script for the movie wrote lyrics, and Paul just doesn't give a fuck anymore. So he's just trying to fit these lyrics in over the melody that's supposed to be there, and it doesn't line up properly. And who's ever editing it, like,
I think that's kind of the
off.
point, though. It's supposed to be like they're not quite off and not quite as musically tight and awesome as Kiss. Kiss isn't supposed to be as good. So
well, that's really cool. Then
it's slightly off because they're robots, man. That's the idea.
Yeah, well,
Devereaux wrote the lyrics, right?
Yeah, Devereaux wrote the lyrics. Devereaux. So I'm going to go next, and then we'll go around the panel. But I think the lyrics are better than the lyrics to Hotter Than Hell, and I'm pretty sure there's another panelist who agrees with me, and I'll go to him after this. But yeah, just like a rock band singing about, revolution, overthrowing the system, and rocking. Like, yeah. That's what a lot of rock songs are about. And so when Kiss in the movie...
down Minnesota.
Anyway, but when Kiss in the movie were complaining about the integrity of their lyrics being compromised, the integrity of their lyrics about getting laid... like, oh no, they're ruining our beautiful art about getting laid, and instead singing about revolution and youth power. Oh no, they're ruining our art. To me, that is absolutely hilarious. But yeah, I think the lyrics are better, but obviously the off timing just makes it a worse song than Hotter Than Hell. But it's fun, a memorable part of the movie, and a memorable part of the catalog. So yeah, thumbs up from me. Steve, you ranked this the highest of the panel. I'll let you go next.
I think it's funny, the idea that when did this movie come out? In the 80s?
78.
78. So the idea that in 78 their impression of like a robot ruining music would be having bad timing. That's a take that has not aged well. But yeah, Greg basically summarized it. That like, I like this version better. I think evil robot Kiss with their lyrics about smashing stuff and revolution are way more fun than regular Kiss with their lyrics about girl touch my dick.
We're officially in the upside down. I don't know what's going on here.
It's not a real song, man. Like, you can't even tap your foot to it. It's all like cut up. Like, come on, man.
I mean, that particular version of it that we watched on that video was, but I think
in the movie, it's all edited weird.
Well, that's because
crowd scene and
it's part of the film. It's not really a proper song necessarily, but hey, when Kiss tribute bands do it live, they just play "Hotter Than Hell" and sing different words. The Rock and Roll Residency, when they do their Kiss tribute, this is what they do. And
there's only one verse, though. Isn't there only one verse?
No, I believe there's two verses. Or is it one verse? Or just one verse they sing over and over again?
Yeah, I think it's just one verse.
Hey, well, that one verse is great. It's a great one verse. That's all you need.
I prefer the one about him fooling around with a married woman next door.
All you need is one great verse.
So, Craig, you ranked this the lowest of the panel. Why do you hate Kiss Meets the Phantom of the Park?
Someone needs a reason.
Well, Sylvester Stallone's not in it.
Oh man, that's true. I mean, he really should have been Ace's stunt double.
I don't know how you make that connection that just because I ranked this song the lowest means I hate Kiss Meets the Phantom of the Park.
I just do gotcha journalism on this show.
I mean, we could probably have a multi-hour discussion about what does and doesn't work with Kiss Meets the Phantom of the Park. But I think, Lee pretty much keyed in on this. I mean, this was a gimmick song for a gimmick moment in a gimmick movie. So it's not something I would reach on my shelves to. I mean, I don't even have an audio only version of the song, and I don't really think I'll ever look for one. Yeah, I mean that's about it for me. I mean, it's Kiss inciting a riot, which I guess they succeeded at.
Kick ass.
So Lee, you ranked this the highest behind Steve. Do you have any additional commentary on it?
No, I mean, I pretty much said all I got to say. Like my Kiss is the first four records, right? So I love Hotter Than Hell. So this one's always just seemed goofy, and it's cool for the movie and the plot line, right? But just the vocal phrasing just, bugged me. I love when they're performing it live, though. Like, Paul's really giving it, right? Like, you see his eyes. Like, he's got psycho eyes when he's performing it, right? So, that's kind of cool. But, I think I said all I have to say about Rip and Destroy. It's kind of a mess.
Also, for clarification, when you say first four records, do you mean the first album through Alive, is what I'm assuming?
Yeah, of course, yeah.
What? And you're like, Rock and Roll Over, lame.
No, that's good, but those are like 9 out of 10s, whereas like the first four are 10 out of 10s. You know what I'm saying?
Okay, because I was about to be shocked. So Matt, you ranked this sort of in the middle of the rankings. General thoughts on Rip and Destroy?
It's another one that out of the context of the movie wouldn't make a lot of sense to somebody that was listening to it. But I like the fact that Kiss really committed to the bit. Like you figure here they are redoing one of their songs. Like Lee said, Paul gets that crazy look on his face in the movie. They really believed that Kiss Meets the Phantom was going to be this gigantic success. And they really jumped into it. And I think, obviously that's the thing. Like, it's never been released as an official song. If you watch it outside the context of the movie, or if you hear it, it doesn't make a lot of sense. But, again, I go back to, I like the fact that they were committing to thinking that Kiss Meets the Phantom really would be the greatest movie of all time.
Yeah, it's one of the most entertaining movies of all time. I'll give it at minimum that.
Sure.
Up there with the Specialist franchise of just eminently rewatchable.
And if you haven't, if you have Kissology 2, make sure you listen to the commentary track. I believe there's two for this. There's a running Gene and Paul commentary throughout all of Kissology, but then I believe for Attack of the Phantoms, which is the cut on Kissology, you also got the park owner and I believe Sam and the girl as well.
Sam, no, because he had passed away. It's Carmine Caridi and I think it's the girl who played Melissa, and which she comments only on what handbag she has or what shoes she's wearing. I'm trying to think who the third person is. I think it's it's one of the stuntmen, the guy who plays the Whipper in the Chamber of Thrills, scene. Man, yeah. Right? So it's just, I really think, and I really keep wanting this, is they really need to do a commentary track where the 4 original members sit down and they make them watch it together. That would be super entertaining, but I know we will never, ever get it.
Yeah, it's never going to happen.
I don't think
I don't remember this.
I don't think Ace and Peter remember it, and I don't think either one of them have probably actually seen it. So it would actually be cool to, hear Ace watch that movie for the first time.
That would be the fun of it, especially, and it probably would pull a lot of, scabs off old wounds, and they might by the end be fighting again. It would be entertaining to say the least.
What I would love is if Peter was given a script and would just try to say his lines at the same time as the guy looping over his lines.
Yeah, that would be the best.
that would be it. If he just had to try to keep up, that'd be the best way to do it.
Forget the Snyder cut. I want the Simmons cut of Phantom of the Park.
Yes.
Because you know that Gene really, really wanted this movie to work, and it probably really disappointed him. So I demand the Simmons cut.
I would like a Simmons cut in the sense that, give Kiss a couple $1 million to re-edit the movie with CG the way they want to, and then release that on HBO Max. You know what? Yeah, I encourage that.
Only if they do the butthole cut. I want them to CGI buttholes onto everybody.
Although, joking aside, slight tangent, as we're talking about the dream of unfinished movies, the Bruce Lee cut of Game of Death, if they just were able to finish that movie based upon his script notes, because there's a good 48 minutes of that film that was shot, and with today's technology they could make stuff that looks very realistic. Oh, I just want the rest of that movie because it would have been his magnum opus.
Didn't they do stuff with a cardboard cutout and stuff?
That they made a completely different story for that version of the movie, but there's a cut that's 48 minutes long that's all the footage he had, because for that version of the movie that came out theatrically, they completely changed the story, cut out most of his footage, and only left in little bits. But
I think, didn't they show that? Didn't they show that on TCM or AMC a couple years ago? Yeah,
and it's a really. The entire film is really his fighting philosophy in film, more so than any of his other films. And each level of the pagoda is him fighting an opponent and exposing the weaknesses of their fighting style and just his philosophy on life. And so it's just it's a brilliant magnum opus, and a bummer that didn't get finished, because that would be one of the best films ever made. And it wasn't finished because death. So yeah, speaking of things that make me sad, next up is Venus and Mars / Rock Show, because I love Paul McCartney so much, and this cover isn't very good, and it hurts me. When you say to, young Greg in the past, time travel, Greg, someday Kiss are going to cover Venus and Mars / Rock Show. I'm going to be like, that is so awesome. Paul McCartney is my favorite songwriter, and Kiss is super cool. That's going to be sick. But then if you had told me, by the way, when I say Kiss is going to record that, I mean Gene and Paul are going to be doing vocals while Paul McCartney's backing band plays. And also at this point in his life, Paul Stanley can't sing anymore. I'm like, oh, well, that just sounds terrible. And that's what you get. So, I mean, the backing track is good, but it doesn't have the heart and energy or vibe of Kiss. And it doesn't have a unique twist on the material. And so it's basically just a high-quality karaoke track where Gene does very good, and then we get a really painful, one of the worst vocals, Paul Stanley's ever recorded on this. So it's Gene was fine, Paul sounds terrible, and there's no flavor or distinctness to it. And so I ranked it low, going against my rule of ranking based on songs. Because if I ranked based on songwriting, this would be number 1, but this version is so painful to listen to. Second from the bottom for me. Steve, you ranked this pretty high. What are your thoughts?
I was actually I was really interested in hearing that explanation, because you do normally at least try to rank things by songwriting. So I was like, is there a Paul McCartney song that Greg just hates? Which would have been weird. Let's see. I'm reading my notes. I made a snarky comment about weird that post-millennium Kiss sounds better covering Paul McCartney than playing originals.
Ooh.
Ooh. I mean, this is one of the more musically adventurous songs they've done in a long time, which I gave it a fair number of points for that. But by the end, it was really starting to drag. There were just a couple changes that was like, man, maybe they should have made a different choice here. Or maybe like Sir Paul should have made a different choice, I guess.
Well, Matt, you gave it the same number of points as Steve, but I assume you have a much more favorable opinion.
You know what? I didn't know the song before I heard their version. I'm not that familiar with a lot of the Paul McCartney solo stuff. I like almost any song where Gene and Paul trade off on vocals. I thought actually the cover version that Kiss does rocks it out more. Like when Paul comes in, the song rocks it out more than the McCartney version does, which I thought was an improvement. But I mean, it's another one of those songs. I think if I never heard it again, I don't think my life would be missing anything. I like the fact that obviously because they were such big Beatle fans that they would get to be part of something like this. But, you know, I mean, I could take it or leave it myself.
Yeah, and so Craig, you ranked it the next highest. What are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I think Matt pretty much nailed it. I mean, I understand the concept of that album. You know, it was sort of, you know, Paul McCartney's killer band backing a lot of artists, you know, that were paying tribute to McCartney. But, you know, it's Gene and Paul. And, you know, as much as people like to say that Gene and Paul are Kiss, they're not. I mean, you know, at least when this came out, it would have been cool to hear Eric Singer and Tommy contributing. So Matt really nailed it in terms of, you know, it's for what it is, it's fine, but if I never heard it again, you know, it really wouldn't impact my life.
And Lee, you ranked this the lowest aside from me. So what do you think of this train wreck?
Yeah, I hate this song, and I disagree with a lot of things Craig just said. No offense, but yeah, I'm glad Tommy and Eric aren't on this, or else the song would have been way lower. But I'm not a fan of Paul's band either.
Ooh.
And I thought this concept for the album was just a joke, right? Like, let's just play the songs we do live in concert every night. We'll get guest vocalists to record their songs in their studios and email it to us, and then we'll put this album together. And it's Paul's pompous band and their fancy clothes and their New York haircuts and everything, right? And it's just bland and boring. Like this.
I like Paul's band.
This isn't Wings, man. This isn't like Denny Lane. This isn't Paul McCartney and Wings. Like, the original is great. Like, why would I ever put this piece of crap on, right? Like, I mean, Gene sounds good off the top. Like, he doesn't get to sing like that in Kiss, right? And like, Gene's got a fucking good voice when he wants to. And then Paul comes in for the second half, and you're like, I remember what Paul Stanley used to sound like, and it's not this, and this is just weird, and you get that uncomfortable feeling because, you know, Paul's really trying, but he can't get there anymore, and it's kind of sad, right? And whatever, and the bridge just gets weird, and it goes off into this, I don't know, whatever. Yeah, I gave this one 9, so the fourth from the bottom for me.
So I
forget, was this one of the ones that was really drastically auto-tuned?
Most anything that's later Paul Stanley, yes.
Yeah, because there were a couple on this that I did my single listen through, as is my want, and there were a couple of songs, the post-millennium ones, that I was like, wow, that's just so much artifacting. I mean, why can't Paul just sing the notes?
His voice is shot from years of doing really over-the-top vocal theatrics that just isn't healthy for a normal person to do.
Pshaw, I say, pshaw.
You can't do that night after night for, you know, a 40-year career. Like, it's going to wear down eventually.
Well, yeah, he definitely paid, you know, the cost to be the boss, but I don't know if this was ever confirmed or not, but didn't he have some, like, you know, nodules or nodes removed from his throat, and you know, the doctor told him to rest for a certain amount of time, and then he went right back on the road like a couple weeks later.
Yep.
That sounds like a rock and roll decision that unfortunately he's paid for basically with the rest of his career, and it's a bummer because Paul Stanley was one of the greatest rock vocalists of all time. But real quick comment on that band. Lee McCormack, as I'm wearing my Paul McCartney Out There tour t-shirt, which I wasn't planning on. I just ended up on top of the laundry pile. Man, that show was so fucking good I cried. So that band is great. I love that band. So
whatever, man. I've just seen different incarnations of Paul McCartney's band, and that's not the one I want to see. Like these guys, they're out there smiling, and that weird drummer with his weird drums. And
I like smiling. I like happiness, good sir. If I was playing with Paul McCartney, I would be grinning ear to ear every fucking show because, like, I got this gig. Hell yeah, I'm gonna be smiling.
Yeah, okay. A lot of people like it. Whatever. It's just not for me. Whatever.
That was the best show I've ever seen in my entire life. Moved me the tears. But switching gears into something completely shitty. Next up is Samurai Son.
This one had some artifacting. Holy crap.
Oh, yes. Once again, just like not foundationally a good song. And I think a lesser version of the collaboration. When you're looking at the two collaborations back to back, the girl group doesn't add that much to this version, and the other version is more of a balance between the two, because they're just like essentially just contributing backing vocals, adding a couple parts, and otherwise it's just a weird out of place Kiss song, where at least the other version sounds more like the two groups on somewhat equal footing, and the lyrics are just the worst generic white person writing about Japan. As someone who actually has a deep appreciation for Japanese culture, with the music, the literature, the cultural history, and it's like, this is embarrassing lyrically, and I feel like Paul should know better. Yeah.
Oh, don't forget they also had the bling, 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 bling instrumentation.
Yeah, and I feel I feel less.
Any white person writing about Japan must have.
Yeah, it's a fucking embarrassment. Like, this is way more embarrassing than the other version.
Just short of playing the Aladdin riff.
Yeah, it's and like the things they're friends with Yoshiki and other Japanese musicians. Like, they should know better. I don't get it. I don't get how this could be that bad. Maybe since this was, sort of intended like as the Kiss version, they're maybe assume like the American fans don't respect Japanese culture, and so they're like, hey guys, just so you know, this is a Japanese thing we're doing. But yeah, I'm
just so you guys know, we also don't respect Japan. Enjoy a song about going there, probably for sex tourism purposes. Oh dear.
Yeah, so this one is a bit of a bummer for me. But Steve, you ranked it much higher than I did. General comments? Anything else to add?
I mean, you mostly nailed all the terrible parts of it, but like, yeah. So I like Baby Metal. So even knockoff Baby Metal is kind of more fun than most Kiss of that era was. And while it was, pretty patronizing and awful, at least they stopped short of including the Aladdin riff. If they'd included the Aladdin riff in 2014, I would have shot it straight to the bottom of the list. But I was like, you know what? They're patronizing. They got the goofy pling pling plong. Sounds like a, traditional. It sounds enough like a traditional Japanese instrument for us kind of sounds, but, not too much of that.
So, Craig, you ranked this the next highest. What are your thoughts on this one in comparison to the other version?
Goodness, you guys make me feel like I screwed up my vote, but
you did.
I gotta go
right answer.
I gotta go with my gut here. And I remember when this came out, I remember just being really excited that there was new Kiss product, and just the overall feel and vibe of the song. I mean, I don't know. And you said that the lyrics kind of bother you, but the picture that's painted when you hear about like flying into Tokyo and hearing your song on the radio. I don't know. It's just, I think for me, this song, I really just dig the overall sort of vibe and the uniqueness of that.
Well, Lee, you gave it 3 points. What are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I don't got much to say about this. I don't like this at all. Like, the riff is not bad. Like, that might have been able to be repurposed in a good song maybe, but I don't know. Like, Paul's voice just sounds weird to me now. And it's hard for me to adjust. And I know it makes me sound old, but I just can't adjust to the way he sings now, knowing how great he used to be. It makes me feel uncomfortable hearing him strain, knowing that the way he used to sound, and the production.
Sounds like the very concept of mortality, and I'm frightened.
And there's just too much stuff on this song. The production is just a mess. Like, it's clutter. Like, it hurts my head. Everything's too loud and really pumped up, and it sounds like video game music. Like, if they just had that riff going, dun, 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 if it was that for 4 minutes, and I was just like on an auto race game or something like that, I could deal with that. But I don't know. And is that Tommy singing the samurai sword, samurai sun part?
I think that's Gene.
It doesn't even sound like I can't recognize who's who on this. It doesn't sound like Kiss at all to me, right? Like even like, can you not put like a Gene Simmons bass tone on this, or like I don't know? It just doesn't sound like Kiss to me.
Yeah, I mean, you bring up a great point about like the being uncomfortable with Paul Stanley's vocals and how he's changed over the years. Putting him side by side with another contemporary, I look at Ian Hunter as a vocalist who really changed his vocal approach as he's gotten older, but found a way to make the degradation of his voice work. I think if Paul Stanley sang in a different style, like, Ian learned, like, I think Ian sounds better now than he did when he was young, because he was always kind of a grumpy old man musically. Now he's just a grumpy old man in real life, and it's great.
I'll give you a good example of that is Johnny Cash, right? Like, I love Johnny Cash, huge Johnny Cash fan, and the last 10 years of his life, he was really ailing, and he couldn't sing the way he used to, but he was able to, along with Rick Rubin, turn out some great performances and learning to sing in a different way in this older statesman kind of voice, right? So, but it's just Paul's a heavy metal hard rock guy. There's no room to kind of go that direction,
Well, yeah, I mean, would it still be Kiss at that point? I mean,
no,
or would it be? It would be Soul Station, right?
He just should have quit 20 years ago when he told everybody he was gonna,
Well, blame the guy at the car wash.
Fuck that guy, man.
I'm not going to blame the guy at the car wash. I'm going to blame, the wife and her taking half the money. He's like, oh, I should do another tour so I can have more money. So I think that's what's really did it.
And do you really think? Do you really think that Gene had time to play bass when he was too busy like bottling soda?
Well, that's the problem, man. That's the problem.
So Matt, you gave this 3 points, so a whole 2 points higher than the other version of the song. Why is it that much better?
Well, the video, I thought this video was good. There's more Kiss. Like that other one is it's supposedly a Kiss song and there's no Kiss. So that doesn't make any sense. But this version, at least the video is good. That you see the Kiss in the video. I think the only reason why I even give it a second thought is because back when this came out, so it was the January 2015 issue of the Kiss Room. One of my students at the time, Danny Moulton, she was really into idol bands and all these Japanese bands. And she was like, oh, did you hear that Kiss did this thing? And was really excited about it. And we had her come on the show, and she's talking a lot about, what are idol bands and how they are created and why they're so popular and blah, blah, blah. And it was really kind of interesting. And at one point, I don't know if you were listening back then, but we had Chris Giordano would be on the show, and he's just shouting all the Paul Stanley stage raps, Hashu, Hashu, and Anatu Asaigo. And he's just yelling it like at the top of his lungs. And she stops the show and she says, do you know what that means? An Ottawa Psycho. And she says, do you know what that means? And he's like, well, no. And she says, well, you're the best. And we were like, wow, look at that. We didn't know that before. So it was like, it was educational right there in the Kiss Room. And I really just enjoyed that episode so much because she brought a different context to maybe what it was, these Japanese bands, which I had no idea. If it wasn't Loudness or Easy-O, I don't follow a Japanese band, but it's one of those things where, to me, as much as Kiss has tried to follow trends over the years or do something that was relevant, again, other than outside the video being pretty cool and some nice animation of Kiss, I don't know. I don't think I ever need to hear the song again.
Yeah, I mean,
so what you're saying is what you truly enjoyed is having a diversity of voices in the Kiss podcasting circles.
Well, I think
you enjoyed
because
having somebody who wasn't an old white dude.
she brought a perspective as a younger person that enjoyed that kind of music. And I don't really know anybody else who would really enjoy that kind of music, but that was her thing. She's into anime and all that.
I used to enjoy that kind of music. Want me to ruin it for you? Maybe not for Greg. Greg already knows the trivia, but want me to ruin everything you've ever learned about idol music for you?
I don't know anything about idol music other than what she told us on that episode.
Steve, go ahead and ruin it for the listeners at home.
Not knowing anything about it.
So most of the young women who perform that kind of music, they drop out of high school in order to join these bands because it's a full-time job. And then when they turn 18, they're kicked out of the idol group because they're too old. So now they're like, oh, I'm vaguely famous and I don't have a high school education and I need to find a way to make a living right now because I can't do music anymore. Well, I guess it's porn time.
Great.
Hooray!
Dun, 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 dun,
Well, that's
dun,
just
dun,
the
dun,
easy
dun,
way
dun,
out,
dun,
man.
dun.
That's just
Now
the
that
easy
music,
way out.
that music is the background music of every porn movie. Hey!
Or horror movies. I recently learned that there's a former J-pop star in that. I don't know if any of you guys have seen that Japanese horror movie, One Cut of the Dead.
I might have. It's been a long time, though.
Yeah, the girl in that was a former J-pop star, and I have that knowledge. I have Joe Bob Briggs to thank for that. He covered it on the last drive-in on Shudder.
And to be fair, the woman from this particular song, she's in her mid-20s and is still doing music. I think some women manage to make the pivot to other music projects.
It's had to become much better in recent decades. It was more of a problem like in the 80s and 90s, but they've actually, in general, been doing much better with that because they realized how problematic and terrible it was.
Which is good because idol groups have just gotten bigger and bigger.
Right, and the thing is,
you can't have 20 girls in your band and then kick half of them out every year. And,
right, and the thing is, I respect the pop craft so much where, I want to feel less guilty about it, and conveniently, they're making me feel less guilty about it. So, good on you, Japan. Thanks for making me feel less guilty about consuming your excellent, excellent pop music.
Hooray!
Yeah, I think that's the most time anybody's ever spent on that song.
I mean, on a Kiss podcast, definitely.
How much does it come up in the J-pop podcasts?
I have no idea. Also, note to self: listen to some J-pop podcasts.
We should. We probably just spent more time thinking about that song than Kiss did spend working on it.
Probably. I don't know. They had to shoot the video. That takes a while. But anyway, next up on the list is one of the best things that Kiss has ever done. The final song in the Kiss catalog at this point, and really a masterpiece, magnum opus. We've got Don't Touch My Ascot, and that's on the list, which I gave 11 points out of a possible 12 to. Oh. Yeah, this is great. It's nice to hear all four members of Kiss singing lead vocals on a song. That's very cool. Paul sounds good on this. Gene has never sounded like this on a song, so I'll give him that. Eric Singer sounds like Dave Lee Roth, which is kind of awesome. And musically, it's kind of jazzy and bouncy. And since I like bouncy jazz, this is a pretty cool cut. It makes me smile. I actually haven't seen the Scooby-Doo movie. I only know the song.
Oh my God! Pause it and go watch it right now.
Yes,
we'll
pause
wait.
this podcast. All right, I'm back. Wow, that movie was great, you guys. I can't believe that old guy was the person in the mask. I can't believe it.
You would have gotten away with it too if it weren't for those meddling kids
and that meddling, Asian glam rock band from the 70s.
I would have gotten away with it if it weren't for you meddling members of Kiss.
But yeah, this is great. I love it. Steve, you ranked it next highest, so you recognize the greatness of this aside from the auto-tuning?
Right, yeah. This song was, other than the auto-tune really ruined it for me, this probably would have been like an easy second place, maybe third, if it hadn't been for just the brutal, brutal auto-tune. It turns out the robots did ruin Kiss music.
Oh, what a twist! Conversely,
it would have gotten away with it too if it weren't for us meddling podcasters.
Conversely, Lee, you ranked this right at the bottom. Why do you hate Scooby-Doo, man?
Hey man, I love Scooby-Doo, but this is garbage. This is garbage. And any song that Eric Singer gets a lead vocal, that goes straight in the trash for me. Right? Like when he starts to sing, it's like I just took a double shot of like cider vinegar or something. I get that like the shivers up and down my spine. Like, oh, he's just the worst. Like, and he's trying to sing jazz or doo-wop or some shit. It's like, I can't handle this, right? And like I feel like Nigel Tufnell when like Janine passed around like the astrological drawings. Like he's like, is this a joke? This is a bloody joke, man. Like it is a joke, right? Whatever. I get it. It is a joke. It is a joke, but it's just stupid, right? I can't take this seriously at all. Don't touch my ascot. And then what? Are they making fun of like Fred's like ascot? Is that what the joke is? Like,
yeah, the joke is they're actually not Kiss the movie. It's a band that he wants to listen to instead of Kiss called the Ascot 5.
Like, this is the same band that puts out like Nothing to Lose and like Parasite. Like, are you kidding me? Come on.
I love your disdain for it. Matt, you rate the second from the bottom. Do you have that much visceral hatred towards this?
You know what? This goes right along with Rip and Destroy. This is Kiss really committing to the bit. You know, it's part of the movie, which I enjoyed, that Scooby-Doo movie, but it's them saying we will do kind of whatever is needed to make this movie. I mean, I think Gene's even goofing on it. If you listen to he don't touch my cravat, he's goofing on it. He can't even get through it. And it's just, you know, I like hearing all their voices together on one song, which is nice. But the fact that they really wasted any amount of time, you know, on this is kind of amazing. Although that's the thing, it's for the movie. And like, you know, they were committing to, let's make this a great thing for Kiss. And I mean, I think I would love to see them continue with more Kiss cartoon movies. But yeah, this song on its own, you know, doesn't really, out of the context of the movie, is just, it's a goof.
How dare they sacrifice their normal artistic integrity for the purpose of serving the medium that they're working in?
Well, I mean, like I said, they
commit to it just for money.
That's all
They
valid,
commit
but when
to
you
it.
compare it, that's all valid. But when you compare it against proper songs, like, it's a fucking
Right.
joke, right? Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. It's a goof. It's like them goofing around in the name of getting this movie. So, but if you said to somebody, "Oh, this is a Kiss song," it would do an incredible disservice to Kiss.
It's true. Yeah.
I don't know.
100%.
I think that's
Matt's got it, man.
I think it's a great addition to the catalog. I love that this exists. In the same way, it's like a White Album track, where it's just like, it's a short, you know, minute and a half song that's just really, it's really catchy. The hooks are great. The melody is great.
Does anyone know if they wrote it?
No, of course they didn't write it.
Yeah, see, what the fuck? It's not even their song. Like,
hey, they did a great version with it, and it's probably the last great Paul Stanley vocal recording.
Oh.
And yeah, this is the best way you could end out the Kiss catalog with "Don't Touch."
he's not
My
even
Ass
singing
Guy.
he's not even singing like Paul. Don't touch my ass, God.
Yeah, that's why he sounds good.
It's not Paul Stanley. Are you kidding me? It's not
This,
Come On and
this
Love
is
Me, Paul
his Johnny.
Stanley.
This is Johnny Cash era. Paul Stanley.
It's pitiful.
Craig, what are your thoughts on this?
I think I probably fall somewhere between you and Matt Porter. Again, it's harmless. It's from a Scooby-Doo movie. And I really think I land right in the middle between your opinion, Greg, and Matt's opinion. I think it's a fun song. I would go out of my way to listen to it. That's about all I can say.
The only way this song could be better is if it was covered by Sylvester Stallone and Dolly Parton in the movie Rhinestone.
No.
Only way this track could be improved.
Now you're just trying to be funny now, Greg. Come on now.
I don't. You can get Frank Stallone in there too. I think,
There we
and then
go.
we need one more voice, and then we're good.
I will say, I watched Rhinestone the other day after having lived in Nashville for years, and I got really trolled by the movie with all the time in Leapers Fork. Like, I know this neighborhood, and this is actually painfully accurate. So that was pretty great.
You know what? You got to. If we want to find a connection between Kiss and Sylvester Stallone, I think we can, because both Stallone and Kiss are willing to swing for the fences and have glorious misses. So there's a connection there.
Yeah, but one knows that when they get old, like, they shouldn't be winning title fights in Rocky movies anymore. You know.
Also, Peter Criss, known for having a huge penis and wielding, crazy guns. Stallone,
The spoiler.
Rambo, huge penis, wheeled around crazy guns. So there you go, another connection between Stallone and Kiss.
Absolutely.
All right, well, hey, next up on the list, we have a song that was never officially released, but I was so tickled when I finally saw it leaked onto the internet. A masterpiece? We've got Life in the Woods next on the list. I remember when I read about this song in Kiss Behind the Mask, and I read the lyrics, and I already knew exactly what the song sounded like, and really hoped that one day I would get to hear it. Figured I never would. And then that live recording leaked on the internet, and yes, it was exactly the song I thought it was. In terms of the chorus
and
and,
then you
the
sampled
melody.
it for Sir Arthur Conan Vaughn.
Yeah, then I sampled it for my joke punk band, which was really, really great. But this track is amazing for a number of reasons. First off, it's a train wreck. This is an absolute travesty. Kiss are terrible live at this point. The song is bad. The chord choices during the verses are just ugly, and you can tell they're just like not quite in tune. And so it's amazing. Paul Stanley is trying to work up the crowd and is failing
so hard.
miserably. And, it shows a lot of mistakes that young bands make. Like, let's bring our friends up on stage. That's great for your friends. The crowd doesn't care. So there's that aspect to it. And also Peter Criss, shouting, what's that fucking feedback really loud into the microphone. And then at the end where he shouts, rock and fucking roll is just so great. This is a mess. A mess in every sense of the way, and it just goes to show that the mighty Kiss was at one point a really shitty club band also, and they became one of the greatest bands of all time, but at this point, they were shit. The song itself actually probably could be salvaged into something good if it was played properly in the studio and they tightened it up. I do like some of the hooks, but yeah, this is a glorious, glorious mess, and I love it for being a glorious, glorious mess. Steve, you gave it 2 points and probably have the exact same opinion I do, despite ranking it much lower.
That's probably a pretty accurate summation of things. It's a very fun thing to listen to in an MST3K kind of sense. But, like, repeated listens, I feel like it wouldn't hold up. You can't tell the same joke too many times in a row before you start getting bored with it. But, like, having heard the joke once, be like, oh man, I remember that joke. That was hilarious. Also, it is super long.
Yeah, I do like how they do, like, the clearer the song should have ended, they trash canned, and they're like, no, one more time. Like, no, it's okay. You can stop. Please stop the song. It's already been 7 minutes. You don't need to keep going. I fucking love this. Matt, what's your thoughts on this? You ranked this Nets lowest after Steve.
I think like most of the songs on here, they're kind of maybe historical landmarks along the journey of Kiss. Like you hear them, like the idea of Kiss, by the time I discovered Kiss, they're huge. They're really breaking out. This is clearly Kiss in a club. He's like, oh, come on, everybody. You know what to do. Like he's working a crowd like every local band in a bar has ever tried to do. The lyrics, obviously, he's making a flower house, a house out of flowers and trees. And they're coming right out of the 60s with we're just going to drift along. It's not something you'd listen to if you were really sitting down to listen to some Kiss. But in history, it's fun to kind of hear them struggling. I think there's that riff, and maybe Lee, you get your guitar, but it's got that Big Star in the Street lick. Da-da-da-da-da-da. It's like hanging out, right? So it's this weird kind of jam bandish. They're trying to be 60s. I don't know. It's I don't think I'd listen to it over and over, but just as historical reference of the beginning of Kiss, it's interesting.
So, Craig, you ranked this above Don't Touch My Ascot. Why is this superior to Scooby-Doo?
It's fun to hear a band before they figured out who they were. And, you had sort of, detailed how this is, a train wreck and, they went on to become the band they did. This wasn't that far removed from them becoming, what they were. So it's fun to listen to this song in a vacuum, and listen to a band playing for probably 20 people. And then they invite Adam Sandler's uncle on stage.
That dude's the best.
I listen to that and I wonder if that guy has any idea that song has found new life on the internet.
That dude is probably dead.
He probably didn't make it out of the 70s, huh?
That dude sounded like completely trashed that night. And also sounded a little bit older. That dude is dead.
That dude is probably fake. You said Adam Sandler's uncle? That's just Adam Sandler putting on a funny voice.
You think it was time traveling Adam Sandler?
Yes.
But yeah, it's for me. This is just it's a fun little glimpse into a band, sort of finding themselves.
And Lee, you gave this the same number of points as I did. So what are your thoughts? Because I expect they're not exactly the same as mine.
Yeah, I'm excited because my top 5 is actually the top 5 we're getting to right now, and this was my number 4. And I love this song, man. This is awesome, and the big reason is because out of these 12 songs we're talking about here, this is one of the 3 songs that has the original 4 cats on it, right? Ace, Peter, Paul, and Gene.
Well, only the original cat. The others are the Star Child, the Demon, and the Space Ace.
Yeah. But I mean, that's why we all love Kiss, is what the magic that these guys had, the chemistry, right? So even hear these guys at this point, which is, I don't know if we mentioned it, June 16th, 1973, Live at the Daisy, this track we're talking about, right? You hear them like, it's just amazing because you hear how Peter and Ace are always great no matter what. They just had a thing where they can do no wrong, right? And they're like, Ace is all, you hear Ace like sort of banging the reverb on his guitar at weird moments and like just doing weird licks, and it's fucking Ace Frehley, right? It's so cool. And you hear Peter, how his vocals just kind of cut through and they like really bury Paul and Gene, because at this point, Paul and Gene haven't really gained the confidence as lead singers and being able to front that band. Peter is coming from more of an experienced guy working in bars, singing lead vocals on songs, right? So you hear how Peter's almost taking control of the band at this point, really working the audience a bit more than Paul, right? You know, Paul wants people to dance, but this is definitely not a boogie woogie kind of dance song, right? So it's really crazy. Like, it's a weird song, weird arrangement. You got these weird, like, hippie, Wicked Lester leftover kind of lyrics, right? But it's, it's cool to hear him stretch out, Paul singing some of these parts, and you hear how he's not really grasping his vocal capabilities yet, but he's reaching for it. It's it's really cool to hear that, and as far as the lyrics go, like I've always wanted to kind of move out in the forest and just say fuck society like Grizzly Adams and kind of just make friends with a bear, and just fish all day. And so I can dig it, man. This is a cool tune.
You know what? I fully endorse that. I will say I do. I'm not married to the magic of original Kiss. I do like all eras and different parts of the eras. I even like some of the stuff they did with Tommy and Eric. I mean, shoot, my first concert was Tommy and Eric. But that said, I think especially Peter really helped define Kiss in a way where they would have been a very different band if they didn't have his sort of like, if the drums didn't have the swing that they did. I think that Kiss would be a lesser band. So,
well, that's a big part of their sound, right? That's
right.
The 4 guys is the chemistry. Right, like it's the untouchable chemistry that they've been trying to fake, since 1980. But sometimes successful, sometimes not. You can't beat it. You can't beat it. I love it.
Yeah. Any other comments on Life in the Woods before we move on? Yes, I too would like to make friends with a bear. Anyway, next up on the list, we have the song that I ranked at the bottom of this ranking. We've got Reputation. So I ranked this at the bottom because it's just a really kind of boring, uninteresting song that goes on for way too long. Like, this is, almost the length of a Jim Steinman song, but without anything interesting happening in it. You got okay lyrics, you've got a great vocal from Gene, and riffs that are okay, but you can see why this was scrapped. It's just a lesser version of classic Kiss, and as mentioned with Life in the Woods, I'm not necessarily married to the classic Kiss sound. I love it, but I love good songs more than I love the sound of classic Kiss. So this sounds like classic Kiss, but with a just bad, mediocre song. I think it's entirely forgettable. I think it's a wasted bonus track. I can see why, it didn't even make the box set when they were scrambling to put stuff on the box set, because it's just unremarkable, it's very forgettable. I would probably give this a thumbs down. Don't need it. Don't really like it. Craig, you learned this the highest, so what do you think of this one?
Kind of like Lee, I add a lot of value to, the original lineup, and I don't think that this includes performances from all of the, the original guys. It's probably just Gene. But still, it's that era. And I really like the way Gene sang in this era in particular. And just the overall feel and vibe of this song is what really, had me ranking it as high as I did.
Matt, your thoughts? You ranked it next highest.
Yeah, we're finally getting into songs that you could put onto your Kiss playlist and not be ashamed if it came on while you were stopped at a red light. It's not... it's not the greatest song. In a lot of ways, like you said, you can see why it would get scrapped, because it's really like Christine 16, Slutty Sister, it's not as good as the original, and it's Gene singing about his own bad reputation. But in a lot of ways, it reminds me of like Love 'Em and Leave 'Em and things like that, of that era, which I really do find the greatest time of Kiss. And, if you put this on your Kiss playlist, it wouldn't seem as out of place as everything that I ranked underneath of it, which was most of this list. So I like it. I wouldn't skip it if it came on. I'm a big fan of Gene's vocals, so it ranked up high for me.
My Kiss playlist is Hate, followed by Only You, followed by Don't Touch My Ascot. Lee, what are your thoughts on this?
Okay, then.
Yeah, so Lee, what are your thoughts on Reputation?
I dig this one. This one came in at number 5 for me. I love rock and roll. Gene Simmons, Let Me Go Rock and Roll, Christine 16, Radioactive, those kind of songs. And this is one of those. It's way too long. That's what she said, right? So if you could trim a couple inches, minutes off this, and it would be perfect, right? So this song could have been really cool with Kiss. You could clean up the arrangement. Maybe another riff interlude or a bridge that Ace could have wrote in the middle of that or something like that. Swap out those shitty falsetto backgrounds that Gene's doing in this and put Paul Stanley doing that. And you're like, holy shit, this is a fucking great song, right? Add an Ace solo. Although this one's not bad. Like, you hear the solo, whoever's playing this. I don't know who played on this demo. It's probably Gene and Van Halen or some shitty something like that, right? But the solo is pretty good. It goes into kind of this melodic, kind of almost like an Ace kind of, we got to do a kind of singable lick here on the solo. And I could definitely hear Peter rocking this one out, kind of like a ladies' room kind of style. But you gotta understand, like, they're in the brackets, in the parentheses, it says demo, right? This is just one of those Gene indulgent demos that goes on for like 5 minutes, and you could find something in there and turn it into a Kiss classic. So for that reason, I can hear all that stuff, and that's why I gave it a 5 out of 12, or ranked number 5 out of 12. Top 5.
And Steve, you ranked it Net's lowest after me. Do you side with the rest of the panel as this being great and sounds like classic Kiss, or do you side with me as like it sounds like classic Kiss and that's not good enough?
And I don't really give a damn about this bad reputation. Anyway, no, it's a. I could see this one being left on the cutting room floor. It was a pretty passable. I liked the Barry Sax-esque guitar tone, but it's again a couple inches too long, and just a sort of forgettable song that drags on.
Yeah, well, I think
I could keep talking about it, but I don't want to make the same dumb mistake that Kiss did.
Oh, zing! All right, well,
forgettable.
Well, hey, let's just move on to another leftover 70s Kiss song. We've got Don't You Hesitate, and that's on the list. I think this is sort of a lot of the same commentary I have about Reputation applies here, where it sounds like classic Kiss, and the song itself, definitely I can see why it was left on the cutting room floor, because it's not as good as the stuff they released. But that said, it's a much better song than Reputation, and I would feel much less embarrassing to have on a Kiss playlist. Because I feel like if you're stopped at a red light and Reputation is playing, someone's going to be like, hey, are those dynamics ever going to shift? Or is that ever going to get interesting? First, at least Don't You Hesitate at least has a good riff. And just is a hookier song. It's a better song than Reputation. And so I'm glad it ranked higher because, it's a cool Dress to Kill style kind of song. Would work well on Dress to Kill or Rock and Roll Over. And it's, lesser than anything they released in the 70s, including the solo albums in Dynasty. I think that's lesser than all of that stuff. But it's still at least bouncy and fun and hooky, so I like this one. Not essential, necessarily. Like, if I never heard the song, my life wouldn't be incomplete. It'd be fine. But yeah, it's a cool little deep cut, so thumbs up from me. Steve, you ranked this lower than Reputation. What are your thoughts on this one?
How long are these red lights that you're waiting at that people are listening to these 5-6 minute long songs?
The red light is broken.
Then it's just a stoplight and a stop sign. Anyway, I rank this one lower than Reputation, largely just because it's a similar tier of song, but it's not as well put together. This one seems like they probably didn't have the original tracks to build the demo out of. They just had whatever random master they had floating around, and the fact that there were a couple random spots where vocals dropped out, they just had to cope with that and just let it slide. So, yeah, slightly worse version of the previous song. Also, more bluesy than I like.
That's fair. So, Craig, you ranked it the Nets lowest, giving it 10 points. So, what are your thoughts on Don't You Hesitate?
Shocking, Craig. Shocking.
Well, for me, it's, again, this is, I believe, Paul confirmed that this is one of those rare demos where you had all four members of KISS playing on it. And for me, that instantly, bumps it up a few notches. And, again, if you cleaned it up a little bit and maybe put a little bit more thought into it and a little bit more work into it, it could have become an album cut in the 70s. But for whatever reason, they decided not to develop it. But that's the reason I ranked it the way I did.
Yeah, I mean, only top 3 for you. So shame. Lee, you ranked this the Nets lowest, only putting it in second place.
Okay. Yeah, so I disagree. Sorry about that, Craig. I thought you placed it number 10, but this is your, third highest. But yeah, this was my second highest. I love this one, man. And I kind of disagree. I don't think this is Ace and Peter on this. I know it says that in the box set. It also says, Gene says that this was a Dress to Kill outtake. And you kind of get that vibe because it sounds like something that could have been on that. But then Paul in the next paragraph says this was a Destroyer outtake, and that it wasn't good. That it wasn't good enough to be considered for the record because they were moving in a different direction. And then
this
Paul
is where we need Julian Gill.
Yeah, right. And then Paul says all four guys played on it, and that doesn't sound like Peter. The drums are very sloppy. I think that's J.R. Smalling on drums, and that guitar is come on, Ace in his sleep could just fucking tear up anything. It starts with that. I like how it starts with that little bass intro, and there's a pick slide, right? But the pick slide is come on, Ace would fucking nail that shit, right? So I don't think that's Ace on that, right? But I dig this song. There's a good harmony vocal by Gene. I like the lyrics to this is a song about hooking up with a girl that's engaged, right? She's about to be married, and Paul's tempting her because she's got this fling with this rock star on the side, right? So he's tempting this girl that's going to get married with a final chance of some star child sexuality before she gets married, right? Right, let me grab my guitar. That riff, there's that line, and then the great lyrics of Paul Stanley where he's talking. He's naming places, right? So he's like, we could leave at night for Puerto Rico, or we could catch a train to FLA. Right, FLA, I always love that, right? Because with your wedding day around the corner, I get to thinking that you shouldn't wait. You got me standing underneath your window, right? It's fucking great. This is Rockstar teasing this girl that's almost going to get married. She's like, "Come on, man, have one more chance with Paul Stanley, one more night of fun, right? Don't you hesitate." I love this one. And when I got that Kiss box set, right, the big thing about that Kiss box set that came out 2003 or 4 or early 2000s was that there were some demos and stuff like that finally. And this was the one that really stood out. It's wow, this song's a gem. This is a gem.
2001 Lee.
2001, all right, yeah.
And Matt, you ranked this the highest, so keep the praise going.
This was my slam dunk number 1, no problem. I mean, among this group of songs, one, it's a fully produced demo. It's not done on somebody's boombox. Like you said, they did say that it's the 4 original members, although it may or may not be. But the fact that something this fully finished could show up as late as that 2001 box set, because I hadn't heard it ever on anything that had leaked out at conventions or whatever. So it was wow, where'd this come from? That I really love it. I think it's a great song. I mean, if it really was as early as Dress to Kill, you figure Dress to Kill is only about a 32-minute album. They could have easily snuck in this on that version. It would have certainly fit with Everything on Rock and Roll Over. I mean, maybe not as great as Everything on Rock and Roll Over, but I mean, what else is? But I mean, it could certainly have fit in with anything they were doing, 75, 76, it would have been great. And I really like this song. And if it comes on, I'll turn it up.
Yeah, I mean, I would say this is a good song. Reputation, I'm not hot on, but this one, I feel the temperature go up a little bit. So yeah, Don't You Hesitate, general consensus from the panel, mostly pretty good. But hey, we're in the top 2, and coming in second place in our ranking of the bottom of the barrel of Kiss material is Strutter 78, a re-record of one of their best songs. So, but unlike the Jigoku Retsuden album, which was trash, this is actually a pretty decent re-record. So, Steve, you ranked this the lowest. What are your thoughts on Strutter 78?
So I was a little underwhelmed by it. It's a decent rendition, but other than feeling perhaps a little slower than the original, I didn't feel like it had enough sticking out to make me feel the need to go back and A-B it with the original. It seemed fine, if dispensable.
Yeah, and then Craig, you ranked it the next lowest. What are your thoughts on Strutter 78?
Yeah, this cracked my top 5 before Lee gets mad. But, I always kind of like when we get alternate versions of things. And, by no means does that replace the original. And that's what I always think is so kind of cool about, when bands sort of do alternate versions or, remixes or whatever you want to call it. And I just think, sort of looking at Strutter, only a couple of years later when the musical landscape had really changed, and to see how Strutter was informed by, sort of being, reinterpreted in 78. It's just a really cool alternate version of the song. And I mean, Strutter is such a good tune that I think it's really hard to screw up, however you decide to arrange it.
Yeah, I'll go next. Matt and I gave it the same number of points as 10. I'll go next, then we'll let Matt go. I think that this is a cool version of the song. I think the original is much better. But I think that this is still Kiss in their prime, recording a classic song in the 70s. So even though it's not as good as the original, it's still Kiss, 1978 era, knocking out a killer cut in the studio. The drumming is the biggest difference, where it has a little bit more of a disco dance beat, but you would never call this a disco song necessarily. I think the guitar tone is good. I think Paul delivers a great vocal, and I love Paul Stanley's vamps at the end, which when I do Strutter live, I incorporate those into my version of it. So I think it offered something new to the song that was very cool. It's a very, fun and comparable version, but it's certainly not a replacement for the original. For me, the original is the go-to version. But, unlike Jigoku Retsuden, you can see yourself really in the mood for this sometimes. So, a thumbs up from me. Classic Kiss in their prime, recording a classic song. Matt, what are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I'd agree with everything pretty much what you said. I think it's not going to replace the original, but I think in some ways, everything on Double Platinum, there's so many of those songs that it started the foundation for every kind of Kiss greatest hits, was that they would offer up these remixes and kind of redone versions of some of the songs that you already bought once, but now here's a reason for you to buy it again. Plus Double Platinum, I mean, really is maybe one of the coolest packages with that, aluminum foil kind of reflective cover and the big double gatefold and everything, and the embossed pictures of them inside. Double Platinum, there's a lot to love. So the fact that they would lead off with this, and it is a little different, and it's kind of almost like a version that mixes how they were doing it live with how that original studio recording. I really like it. I think, I ranked it high because it sounds great. It reminds me certainly of that era of Kiss.
And Lee, you ranked this as your number 1. So why is this the best of the worst?
Well, it's obvious that this song is the best of the worst, right? And like a lot of you guys have said, like, the original is obviously superior, your live version is obviously superior, but when you have a song like this amongst a pile of music like this is a gem, right? This is a diamond. This is a diamond amongst a bunch of rocks.
A diamond in the rough.
Yeah, this is fucking Strutter. Like, this is the first song off the first Kiss album. Are you kidding me? Right? And what they've done is they've slowed it down a bit, which I'm getting all too excited here. They've slowed it down a little bit, which is not good, because like the original is slow, right? But they've slowed it down even a little bit more to that, like maybe to put a little bit of that groove into it, because like you said, there's disco drums in it, the 16th notes on the hi-hat, and there's like some cool percussion and some shakers in the background there too, right? So I wish we had footage of like video footage of the guys in the studio, like they've done with albums in the last 20-30 years. If there's like footage of them in the studio, imagine like seeing Peter working the tambourine on like this track or something like that, or like who played the shakers. Maybe it was Eddie Kramer was there and he played a shaker or something like that, right? So I think that stuff's cool. I love that there's the 2-bar intro off the beginning instead of the 1 bar that you get on the studio album, right? And obviously great fucking Paul Stanley lyrics, right? She brings you down, drives you wild, right? So great. And I love, like, remember in the 90s, like, we've been dogging on Paul's vocals a little bit here because of the material, but I remember in the 90s, Paul was just a fucking machine. And I remember that line in Strutter, he would go, she brings you down and drives you wild. Like, he would just jump like 2 and 3 octaves on some of these old Kiss classics, right? Like, I remember like Cold Gin. There was a break in Cold Gin when they go to the riff and Paul's like, baby, baby, and it's like, where did that come from, right? So Paul was a machine there in that sort of 90s reunion era. And but let's just get back to this song. But, I just love it. The live arrangement, obviously one of my favorite Ace solos. Right? So you can't beat it, right? And like you said, Greg, the outro improvs that Paul's putting on the stuff. So Ace is doing like the outro solo, and like Paul's like, "Look out, that girl will pass you by." Right? Woo, love it, so good. So that's all I got to say. Strutter 78 shines amongst this pile of Kiss leftovers.
Yeah, I mean, I gave it 10 points, so the only tracks that beat it were Don't Touch My Ascot and the number 1 song in this ranking. So let's go through the list from the bottom to the top. Lita, Stop, Look to Listen. Yume no Ukiyo ni Saite Mina. Rip and Destroy. Venus and Mars / Rock Show. Samurai Sun. Don't Touch My Ascot. Life in the Woods. A Reputation. Don't You Hesitate. Strutter 78. But the best of the worst Kiss songs, according to this panel of experts and me, it's Do You Remember Rock and Roll Radio? A Ramones cover.
Ramones. There you go.
I mean, shocking. You give Kiss a good song and they competently play it, and it's pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, I put this as my number 1. Craig also put this as his number 1. Steve and Matt put it as their number 2. Lee put it as his number 3. So pretty much unanimous consensus across the panel that this is great. Since I'm talking, I'll just keep going, I guess.
Just keep talking.
I'll just keep going and then I'll shift gears. But for me, this is really great because the Ramones and Kiss are 2 bands that people don't realize how close of friends they were and how much they respected each other. And so a lot of punk kids were like, oh man, Kiss sucks. Like Steve Edwards would not know about the connection between Kiss and the Ramones, both being New York bands, peers, and like rooting for each other and supporting each other. And
I don't think Edwards listens to much Ramones either.
Well, he said they're his favorite 70s band, which means he probably listens to like 2 songs. But anyway, but, Do You Remember Rock and Roll Radio? Kiss and the Ramones come from similar musical backgrounds. They came from the same era, and they just went different directions. But they both had a love for those 50s and 60s pop songs and old TV shows, like Ed Sullivan. And so love of bands like T-Rex. And so to give a nod to those artists in song form is something that was very sincere to the Ramones, and their version was great. And Kiss covering the song, it's a song that they can sing with conviction because they believe in the lyrics, they believe in the material because they're friends and peers they respect, and it's a song that translates very well from the Ramones style to the Kiss style, where it sounds like an authentic Kiss song, but with horns, which is something that offers a new flavor to Kiss, but still has the thunderous hard rock drums, the great beat. The tempo works well for Kiss, and Gene and Paul switching off vocals sound great. Paul hasn't lost his voice at this point, so you have a really great vocal from both band members.
Yeah, I thought this was my number 2. I thought the song was really good. Doing punk songs with a brass section, like most bands in the early 2000s, Kiss should have just started playing ska.
Yeah,
the greatest genre of all. Sorry?
Yeah, I agree with that. Kiss should have become a ska band at this point. That would have been a good move.
Yeah, I think that would have just been way better. Like, I mean, their whole thing is they do party rock, right?
Right.
And what is ska? But party rock. But you have a million interchangeable members in your band rather than 4 super important dudes.
At this point, they'd basically stopped recording albums. So if just You're saying in that space between Sonic Boom and Psycho Circus, Kiss records a couple ska albums. I say hell yeah, please. I want to go to
Paul
that
and Gene should
timeline.
have just hired Real Big Fish to be their backing band, and it would have kicked ass.
Yeah, fully agree. So you were a fan of this cover as well? Yeah, so Lee, you ranked this the lowest out of all of us. Why do you not like the Ramones?
Well, fuck, man. I love the Ramones. Don't get me started on that shit. Come on. I love the Ramones. I love Joey Ramone. Joey Ramone is the best. Joey Ramone is like the most tragic death in the last 30 years for me. And, it's obvious he had a big part in writing this song. I wonder about the production. Like, the album was produced by Rob Zombie and Johnny Ramone. But I don't think Johnny Ramone had much input as far as, like, kind of just guiding things. So the track sounds great. So I'm wondering if that was, Zombie putting that together in the studio. I don't like Eric Singer at all, but I got to admit the drums sound really cool on this track. I love how, he's going back and forth between riding on the floor tom, gets that really kind of like clap your hand along with his song, kind of things. Paul's vocals are great. Like he could sing here. That at the end of the couple of verses, he does the whoa, whoa, right? And you got Kiss with saxes. Like, come on, man. Like, this is great. You got like Paul and Gene trading off the verses. You got to love that. Right. And I also love the fact that, like they didn't try to do a punk version and they didn't try to make it metal either. They kind of split the difference. Right. Like they looked at the song as like a good rock song and they just kind of made it as a heavy kind of rock and roll song. And they really captured the rock and roll spirit of the original. So, that's what I dig with that song.
Yeah. And so, Matt, you ranked it the Nets lowest, only putting it in second.
Yeah, I really thought it was, especially out of this group of songs, most of these songs are kind of half finished or kind of demos or whatever. This is actually a finished, album cut. So the quality is excellent. It's Kiss being part of that rock and roll family. I mean, a lot of time Kiss gets left out of things like this, I think, because everybody kind of thinks of Kiss as something else, but it's Kiss being a rock band. And certainly it fits with, like, if this had been on Revenge, I mean, it would have fit perfect in with what they were doing, leather jackets and, trying to hang out and still having that Kiss vibe. But I really like this. I think it's a great mix from the original song to the Kiss stamp on it. And, so it definitely ranked high for me.
Do you remember what year was this? What year was this song? Like early 2000s,
right?
It was like right. No, I think it was right around the time Johnny died. So what, 2004-ish?
Well, because I thought this came up as a bonus track on Alive 4, and wasn't that 2003? Yeah, because this came out with a Live 4 as a bonus track for the single disc edition, and Peter was still in the band, and Tommy and Eric were first touring together in 2004, so this would have been 2003 at the latest.
February 11th, 2003, it was released, the We're a Happy Family tribute album, at least.
All right, called it.
But it's Eric Singer on drums, right? So Peter played that summer tour with the band, but I guess Eric recorded that in the middle of that. And Matt, you had mentioned like you could hear the Revenge lineup doing this, but can you imagine like if Kiss actually retired when they said they were going to do it in 2000, and maybe this was a one-off track that they got back together to do, and it had like Ace and Peter on it, and there was like a killer Ace solo in the middle of this? Like it just would have been so much better, right? Like
if they actually had retired, and then this was all of a sudden this resurfaced, everybody would have been screaming for them to return, right? Because this is so rocking. Yeah. And like you said, if Ace is on there with that Ace sloppy playing, that would have been perfect with Ramones. Man, you're hitting it right on the head. This would have been enormous.
And Peter doing the rock and roll all night drums on this, right? Like that kind of style.
I respectfully disagree with that. In that, I think that at this point, Eric Singer is a much better drummer in the studio than Peter is. And I think that the drums on this track are perfect, and I feel like Peter would have done a lesser version of this song. And I love Peter. Peter's my dude. He's my favorite member of Kiss. And I think
he was good. Dude, he was good in 2003. Like, I know Peter gets dogged a lot.
He's not a heavy enough hitter, I think, for this track.
He's in the studio. You could totally get a track in the studio. It's Rob Zombie, right? It's not Paul Stanley producing. It's Rob Zombie, right?
That's what drum triggers are for.
If you look at the way Peter played in 2000, 98, he was kind of going downhill. But if you look at the way he played on that Aerosmith tour, he was good. And the way he played on Symphony, like there's moments where Peter had his shit together because he was back and he kind of wanted to redeem himself for the way it ended in 2000, right? So there's definitely a way he would have got a great track in the studio for sure.
And add Peter's vocal into this. Oh my gosh, this would be a humongous song.
Oh yeah, well, adding Peter's vocal, that is a big plus. But I think I do like this drum performance a lot, and so I don't really want to change because I think this is the exact right drum performance for the song. Craig, you rank this as number 1, so you're correct, like I am.
Yeah, Ramones are my all-time favorite band, so anytime that you have the option to go with the Ramones, you go with the Ramones. A return to adding brass into their sound after Cadillac Dreams, we can only imagine.
We've been holding our breaths, waiting for that Cadillac Dreams sound to return to the Kiss discography.
And you touched on sort of the circles that Kiss and the Ramones ran in together. And I think a lot of people, that have a casual understanding of Ramones don't really get the fact that Ramones came out of that same glam scene. Joey sang for a band called Sniper and went by the name Jeffrey Starship. And, that's kind of the holy grail of lost sort of photos and audio, for me at least, is, Ramones, pre-Ramones, when they were sort of still in that glam scene. And there's pictures out there of Johnny wearing tight pants and stuff. And it's really funny. And, I think it's cool that Kiss and Ramones ran in the same circle. But again, this song, it's not complete Kiss. They didn't really have an established guitar player. It's just Gene, Paul, and Eric. But it's a great tune. What a great rock and drive-in tune, and it was really cool to see Kiss included on a tribute. It's a great tribute album as well.
Yeah, and I actually don't have it because I just have the Alive 4 single disc edition. So I do not have that Ramones tribute album. I have it from that. But yeah, so that is our ranking of the worst of the best of the worst, whatever the name of the podcast is today. Kiss Leftovers. That is our ranking. What did you guys think of this ranking? Were you surprised by it? Just general wrap-up thoughts. Let's start with Lee. What are your general wrap-up thoughts on this collection of material and our consensus on it?
Well, I was happy that my top 6, I think, were the top 6, even though there were a couple of mix-up in there. Oh, except for my number 6 was last place. Lita forever. Please remember me. Sensitive Gene, right? But woo! Yeah, it's all cool, man. Whatever. It's fun to talk about this stuff. What a band to talk about it. There's so much little intricacies and stuff that people are divided on and everything. It's good times.
Yeah, you bring up a good point. Kiss has a lot of different flavors and styles and aspects to them where you could put on a playlist of Kiss songs and have not one of them sound anything like the others. And that's a pretty cool thing for a band. Craig, what are your wrap-up thoughts on this ranking? Are you happy with it, surprised by it, and just general thoughts on this collection?
I think I'm pretty happy with the way things panned out. I think it's not too far off from what I had submitted. It's throwaway Kiss songs. But again, like you said, the one of the great things about Kiss is, how different their material was depending on the mood, that you're in. You can sort of put together a Kiss playlist. And if you're looking to put together a playlist of the worst of the best, there's a lot more songs that would go on it before some of the songs here.
And Matt, this is your first time on the Lipstick panel, so I want to get your general thoughts on this ranking, the wrap-up of the material, and the diversity of perspectives and opinions on this. Just general thoughts on the ranking.
You know what? I really appreciate you guys having me on. This was a blast. It was a fun way to spend some time talking about Kiss. I think in some ways, this playlist, if you built a playlist with just these songs, you can actually track pre-Kiss to really the last thing they recorded. And it's almost more important as a historical look is when you see them trying to be a band in a club going, we're not going to be around so much anymore when they're doing Life in the Woods. And then it's not too many years before they're the biggest band on the planet. And then you have them making choices along the way, saluting their own influences, and ending up with something as silly as Don't Touch My Ascot. So it's been a fun ride with KISS, and it certainly was fun talking about all of it.
And Steve, you've now listened to basically every studio cut in the KISS catalog, aside from the Wicked Lester album,
many songs.
which means we are doing the Wicked Lester album. So the KISS prequel. But you've basically listened to everything that KISS proper has to offer. Just your wrap-up thoughts. You made it.
Hooray! We always go over, like, how did I feel about the ranking? How did we feel about the rankings at the end of these episodes? And this is one of those ones where, like, I feel like there were no correct decisions. I'm a little disappointed at the disrespect that J-pop got here in my house today. But otherwise, like, I'm not really surprised that, like, the riffy KISS songs got ranked the highest. I'm pleased that the Ramones got such love today. There's a couple songs on here that, like, when I put together my compilation of the only 12 KISS songs that should ever have been recorded and make us do an episode on that, you're definitely listening to some J-pop again.
Well, fair enough. Yeah, and my general thoughts on the ranking, man, there's no right way to rank these. This is just a clusterfuck of songs and just... for those of you who want to listen to this playlist, have at ya. It certainly is a listen. Well, yeah, that's our episode. Excellent guests. Where can we find you on the internet? Craig?
Best place would be to follow me on Twitter at Mr. Craig Cohen. That's Mr. Craig Cohen. And in addition to the SlyCast, I have quite a few other podcasts I do, including Big Screen Book Club, where each episode we look at a book and a movie that was inspired by it, and also a new Pulp Fiction one I just started up called Conversations at Jackrabbit Slim's, where each episode we just shoot the shit about one of the greatest movies of the past 30 years.
And Matt, where can people find you on the internet?
I'm easy to find. It's thekissroom.com. We also have a Facebook group, The Kiss Room. If you go to it, you can join that and have a conversation. I broadcast really just once a month via Montco Radio. If you have listened to this 2-hour podcast and you enjoy anything I say, you can come over to thekissroom.com and you'll find a lot of things to love.
And Lee, where can we find you on the internet and your new single?
Well, yeah, if you want to hear me talk about Bruce Springsteen and other kind of rock and roll stuff, you can check out my podcast, which is at trampslikeuspod.com and other podcast platforms. And yeah, this week I wanted to kind of talk a little bit about my music. So check out my website, which is moonviolet.com. And I just putting out a new single called Train to Heartbreak, which I recorded at Sun Studio in Memphis, Tennessee. And it's pretty cool. Yeah, I'm putting out a vinyl single. 2 songs recorded at Sun Studio, which is a big thrill, kind of rock and roll, rockabilly stuff. So check that out. There's a video of me putting the song down in the studio, which you can check out on YouTube. You can buy it on digital Apple Music and Spotify. You can stream it there and all that stuff. So yeah, check out moonviolet.com and Lee McCormack, Train to Heartbreak on YouTube. Give it a listen. It's a lot of fun.
And Steve, where can people find us on the internet?
They can find us at lipstickgeneration.com and wherever they downloaded this podcast from, and on several social media platforms as Lipstick Generation. And the latest Lipstick tangential songs that you're going to be able to get are, if you search for They Pay Tribute To, you can find a They Might Be Giants tribute that I appear on twice.
And that is our episode. Bye, Internet.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to the Lipstick Panel, hosted by Lipstick Generation. Lipstick Generation's music can be found on all major streaming platforms and at lipstickgeneration.com. If you're listening to the podcast on YouTube, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Let us know your ranking of the subject in the comments down below. Feel free to leave us an episode suggestion also. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts or your favorite podcast app, please leave a review and tell a friend about our show. Thanks and rock on!